Welcome to Flat Earth Debate Live. I'm your host, Nathan Oakley, and if you are new to this channel, or you've not done so already, then be sure to subscribe, hit the bell notification icon and join button if you'd like to become a Nathan Oakley 1980 channel member and keep up to date with the Flat Earth Debate. If you would like to support the channel, there is a super chat that runs alongside each of these shows while they are live, and there's also a PayPal, Patreon and crypto link in the info box below the video. Also below this video you can get £50 for swapping your UK electricity supplier to Octopus Energy, and this is a particular note if you drive an electric vehicle. Most importantly, if you'd like to join the discussion, simply mute the page you are currently watching, then click the link in the info box below this video to join the panel and express your views on the nature of Earth. If you do join, please don't swear. If you do, you'll be ejected, and if you are, please don't try to rejoin the stream using stock accounts. You'll be warmly welcomed back on the next stream. Please also share the show on social media. Sharing the show obviously increases the live audience, but this in turn increases the chances of a more diverse panel, so please share the show on Facebook and Twitter. Now, we are joined by 10th Man, Neil, and Refracted Curvature, who seems to have disappeared, and a whole bunch of people in Discord, Righteous Force also. So welcome one and all.
Good morning, good morning.
Good morning.
Hey, good morning.
Good morning, good to have you. Should you do a bit of housekeeping?
Yes.
Let's let Arwin in first. Hello, Arwin.
Hello.
Hello.
Good afternoon.
Good afternoon. We can do some housekeeping. Let's see how we get on. Any evidence of a physical geometric sphere at horizon, formerly known as the curve of the Earth?
No.
Hey, Sleepy Warrior.
Hey.
Did you join to answer the Earth curve question? Because we had a slight mumble from Arwin that there was no evidence of it. It seems like the most critical detail in this debate and discussion, but there we go.
Soundly's bridge cam. Is that the best that they've got? I think that's the best evidence that they've got that they don't cite anymore.
Those were the days.
That's optical. That's optical, not geometric.
Yeah, next. But those were the days. Remember when they used to show us bendy bridges and say, here's Earth curve? Oh, those were the days.
Yeah, I do remember those days when they used to come in being all dead proud, and the reality is...
Yeah,
it's
Planet
gone.
Louisiana.
Yeah, it's gone.
How is it called? QE named it that something. Planet New Orleans Parish. That's it. Planet New Orleans Parish.
New Orleans. Yeah.
Hey, Adam.
Afternoon, guys.
Hello. Good to have you.
Yo.
Planet what? I just heard.
New Orleans Parish. Out there in the swamp.
Yeah, I drove across the causeway yesterday.
What about yesterday, Mr. Distorted?
Sorry, I said I drove across it yesterday, the causeway.
Oh, Pontchartrain, whatever it's called.
Yeah, like Pontchartrain.
It
And,
really does sound like he's on the police radio and he's saying, like,
Yeah.
Sierra Oscar 95.
Sierra Oscar 95 is a reference to the bill. It's one of the patrol cars in the bill, isn't it?
It is, yeah. Sierra Oscar 95 to Sierra Oscar.
I know my 1980s crap TV.
Yeah. They were the good times as well. The bill changed, didn't it, when they started changing how they filmed
Excuse
it,
me.
and it was
Hello.
rubbish.
So could you cut the air like a cake, ZLT, when you drove across? Was it nice and thick?
Yeah, I'm sure it was.
That was, yeah, sure was, for anybody who doesn't speak robot. Okie dokie then. So we move on, or did you actually want to talk about the bill, Anthony?
No, not really. We can move on. I don't think there is any evidence of curvature anymore, is there?
No, they're going to need half of that.
Yeah. Shout out to Mitchell. Nearly fell. Shout out to Mitchell that nearly fell off his boogie board yesterday on the live stream.
It's a good point, though. He's doing that on your behalf. You know, in many ways. He gave you references, obviously. I'm sure you know if you watched, but... Yeah. Do you want to explain to the audience, as you brought it up, what Mitch was doing out on his surfboard?
He was showing off, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was
like,
showing off.
Look at me broadcasting live, doing this, and I'm on a paddleboard today, going backwards.
I was doing the. It's difficult to do it in text, but I was doing the Jaws music. You know,
God, hello. God,
But it's not going to work. Though,
Okay. Can we forget for a second
the
that
water
Mitch
is
is...
so clear, you would see that shark coming at a long distance.
Yes, hello. So he was making a point about sharks, or about him being able to... She was showing... No, he wasn't. He was making a point. I thought you'd actually launch into the point being made. Why would he be out floating in equilibrium? I can't lead you any
Well, he
more
was
than this.
demonstrating that some things go down, some things go up, and some things will float on the medium in his case.
No, so he wasn't showing off then?
Sure he was. We can't go in the water over here. It's freezing.
He was not
Yeah,
showing
he was
off.
showing off.
Look, he's just jealous, right? Just because he's so cool doesn't mean you have to lay on a few layers of envy. Look, he was doing it in a cool way. Admit it. He was making a point, a cool point, in a cool way. Admit it. Tell me you're jealous. I am. I'm happy to admit it.
I am too.
He actually did more science than I've ever seen any baller to do. He actually did the egg test whilst on a boogie board in the middle of the sea, and I was like, that's impressive.
Check out
He
how
was the egg.
check out how green my panel are, Mitch, if you're watching this. They know how fucking cool you are. They know it.
It was, to be fair, a point of recognition. I mean, look, you've just had 2 weeks of moaning. You cannot possibly do a show without 3 screens and a yard of pixels. Do you know what I mean? And then he's just out there doing what are really entertaining and informative and educational shows normally. And then, like I said yesterday, I've got to say, it is just showing off. Doing that whole thing at sea on a boogie board. I just thought, respect, bruv.
That's more like it. That's it. You know, I'm happy to admit my limitations, and there's certain aspects, a lot of aspects of what Mitch does that I couldn't do if I wanted to. And my hat's off to him. It's like, that makes it unique, cool. It's, you know, every time I tune in, you go, wow, that looks beautiful. I don't think, my smoggy, horrible view's not as good as that. It's showing off yet. No, I just think, wow, that's so beautiful.
Do you know how cool it is when you catch a wave on a boogie board? I did it in South Padre Island in Mexico. Well, Texas, actually. But it is really, really cool.
Exactly.
I wish I learned how to surf.
Yeah, so just, you know, shower him with admiration rather than envy. You know, what he was doing was making a very good point that we argue about on a daily basis. We argue about it inside our buildings, right? He doesn't. That's cool.
But I was scared of sharks. I was spooking myself out.
He's had sharks in his live stream as well.
Yeah. So I would not go in that water. No, sorry.
Yeah.
It just wouldn't
Next
have
time
the same effect, would it, Nath? If it was you down at Coventry Municipal Pool doing the same sort of things. He is benefited by, I mean, it's absolutely stunning, the scenes he presents you each day. Yeah, I can't see it quite the same from the centre of Coventry or...
Exactly. This is Mitch. It's not just what he's doing either. It's the way he's doing it. So I strive to make every point as concise as I possibly can. You know, that's something I strive for. So to tune into Mitch and hear a point that we make, or that I make with disclaimers, and he can do it in half the words. You're like, man, that's ace. Because I look up to that. It's like, that's a skill he has got that I haven't, and I have to work really hard to try and achieve. He can do it naturally. So, you know, he's of a personality that is ideal for presenting this information. And he's worthy to give his title that he's given his show as well. He calls it Flat Earth School. And it is. And he's that cool teacher. Oh, is that teacher cool? I like that lesson. He's that cool teacher, right? Me, I'd be that teacher that was telling every kid in the class off. None of them would be chewing gum, I'd be able to see every one of their hands flat on the desks. You know, I would be that bastard teacher that nobody liked. Mitch isn't me, you know, and I've got a lot of admiration for that. It's like, yeah, you do something that I can't. Yeah, I can be stern with fundies, but, you know, which position would you rather be sat in? Me in my nice comfy chair, admittedly, it is nice. Or sat on the boogie board. Which one would you rather be? Let's be honest here. I know which one I'd rather be.
Some kids need that stern teacher, Nathan.
Does that mean that I'm the art teacher?
No, I'm not comparing us all to
Understanding,
teachers. I'm just me in this example. Let's take it to a different example. So, if, you know, I use Hollow Man as an example occasionally, and the guy who's the main character is described as being able to get from A to D without going through B and C. Well, this is the exact same thing. For me to produce my show, all the homework and all the stuff I do and all the screens and moans about not having enough technology and all of that, Adam's absolutely right, right? Mitch is getting from A to D without going through B and C. And I'm like, I need those. I need the B and C. I need my desk and my monitors and I need all that. I can't do it without it, right? He doesn't. He can get from A to D without B and C. That's genius.
Mitch is hollow, man.
Right, but he also stays very focused, so like he doesn't really dwell off into other things too much. He really stays on the target of the subject really strictly. So,
Yeah, being concise. Exactly. That's my point.
I wouldn't be able to do that.
And keeping up with chat whilst on the boat. That was the other. Just,
I did something else too.
Yeah, he was keeping chatting with the people in chat, weren't he, as well? It's yeah, quality.
Let's just all throw in a towel.
Yeah, he kept track until he dropped his camera in the ocean.
And even then he fixed it whilst at sea, didn't he? Got it, and then the stream went down. I think I had to go for my tea. I didn't see the second half, but
Yeah, but did he did he have to dive off the board to get it, or did he just grab it in the water still when it was going down? Never said.
He should have used an egg.
That was after the egg.
Or Paul McCartney back to the egg.
Alrighty then. So, as we've been chatting about him, might as well do my proper plug. So, subscribe today. That's Mitchell from Australia YouTube channel and the show that he produces. Good, as obviously we've discussed it for about the last 10 minutes. Obviously, we all like it as we're all tuned in discussing it right now. Is called Flat Earth School. So, be here or be sphere on Mitchell from Australia's channel for Flat Earth School. Aptly named. Any evidence of axial rotation of the Earth-based variety?
No, and he's actually a ball buster too.
You wouldn't expect to see any Coriolis deviation if the air was susceptible by gravity and going down, go boom boom to form columns.
And I'm not.
Wow. I don't have to say anything to that, do I? I mean, there's nothing for me to say.
Yeah, man. It's gravity. Gravity makes there being no reference frame on the spinning, no reference frames on a spinning ball Earth.
Define gravity.
He did.
No.
He did. He said gas go down, go boom boom. He's included all of the disclaimers.
No, but that's the consequence of gravity. That doesn't actually define gravity.
No, because it doesn't happen. Gas does not go down, go boom boom. So saying that's an effect of gravity doesn't define gravity. Well, it isn't an effect. It doesn't happen. Therefore, no gravity. Yeah. Yes.
I'm just waiting for the moment where the anti-flat earthers come out. Like, why do you keep saying that gas go down, go boom boom because of gravity? It doesn't do that.
Somebody made me a really cool advert, and they got me with the like Nordic guy who stops some dude from going along a certain path and hassling some woman, and then he breaks into dance, and everyone does behind him. Do you know what I'm talking about? Well, somebody took that and took me saying gas go down, go boom boom, and turned it into it was a anti-flat earther as well. Now, as soon as I saw it, I was like, yeah, you obviously don't get this, do you? Because I'm actually taking the piss out of Thunderfoot. Gas go down, go boom boom, like solid bonded bouncy balls. That's your claim. So, turning it into a rap track is almost like Simon Dan saying you and your reference frames are ruined. Maybe they have misunderstood. I don't claim gas go down, go boom, boom. You do? Hello?
Does that shock you?
See it. They don't see it. They just hear the way you say it, and that's what they think is funny. And then they project everything onto you to take away their own personal sensation of their responsibility for the claim. Right? They make you claim it so they don't have to do it anymore. That's how they see it.
I see. So when it's shown that gas does not go down, go boom, boom, they can say, I see, Nathan. When you said gas go down, go boom, boom, with gravity, that you don't claim, you were wrong. And you go, right, I see, yay, you really win then. But no gravity making gas go down, go boom, boom to force other gases up when you describe buoyancy then. Yeah, we know. Gas doesn't do that. Any scientific evidence of gravity?
No, but most of the Western world believes that that's what's keeping us grounded here on the ball Earth.
The gradient.
What Arwen's just said has just made me realise something, that when they argue against gravity, this goes along with something Anthony and I were discussing off air a little while ago today, they're using a segue to not address the argument. So when you disclaim, if we've got columns of air and gravity make gas go down, go boom, boom, go splash, splash, like solid bonded bouncy balls, then there'd be no effect to see. That's essentially what, to parrot almost verbatim what you stated, Arwen. Well, what you're doing is very Baller-esque in the respect that you're segueing onto a different discussion that we can beg the question of, which is gravity, whilst not addressing the Coriolis effect that we're not seeing. So that's quite clever. More clever than most ballers, although they do that often when cornered.
Yeah, well, it's the scattergun effect, right? So, you bring out an argument. It's obviously fallacious. So what do? You quickly fire off another argument that on the surface seems like it would account for the apparent flaw in the previous argument, but it has its own problem. So then you try to address that, and then they immediately fire off the next argument and do the same thing. So they do scattergunning fallacies. Can keep on going, and then at some point they're gonna start the routine over again. They're gonna return to an argument that you've already dispelled, so they can keep doing it over and over again.
But all those arguments are built on the Earth being a ball. That's like the cornerstone of it.
Right, and if you just keep on firing, you'll never get to the point where you realize it's all bunk.
Let's do that
What
right
about
now.
the black swan?
I was about to say, let's do that right now. Any evidence of the R value, Earth radius?
No evidence of the R value has been debunked by the black swan and reaffirmed and beaten even worse with the sextant argument.
If Earth was
Earth radius is bent.
Yeah, John.
If Earth was a sphere, you could measure a geometric horizon.
Black swan. Any single viable hypothesis from any of the fields of astronomy, cosmology, or astrophysics?
Sure, Dr. Becky has.
How is she doing?
I'm not a
To
mum.
the extent.
Has she done any science recently?
Why are you asking me?
I thought you were trying to correspond with her. She still hasn't answered you?
Well, once I realize people don't want to talk, I don't follow them anymore.
But is she still doing the email science and all that?
Of course. She already admitted to all that. She does science while eating lunch and typing in things and using her mouse on the computer. That's doing science to an astrophysicist, looking at pictures.
That's because QE just came out with this scientific method about 6 or 7 years ago.
No, fancy that.
Yeah, this Dr. Becky thing isn't this isn't a viable hypothesis.
I'll try to get in touch with her and see.
I like how a whole year of research and us being trained in the dark art of arguing science from a natural world point of view has descended into, is Becky still doing pseudoscience? That was a whole year.
But wouldn't it be funny to kind of like attempt to do a world census? And with the premise, like, let's see how many scientists there really are on planet Earth. Let's just call it planet Earth, right? And then, like, all the people reporting, like, I'm a scientist. And you literally test them all. Okay, so what is a hypothesis? Did you use any? Describe it. And then it turns out like, oh, well, a lot of people thought they were scientists, but it turns out there's like only 100 of them in the entire world.
I think Michio Kaku gave the answer to that.
I got to commend myself because I never say planet. I never say atmosphere. I'm just good like that. You guys always slip planet and atmosphere.
What is it that you don't say again?
I mean, in conversation, you know what I mean.
You said it twice in a row. You said, I never say that. And then you say, I never said that. And then you say it.
I never slip in conversation. I've busted Nathan, I've busted QE, and now I've busted Arwen.
Okay,
busted? No, but I said it on purpose. It's colloquial speak. If you want to draw in a big crowd, if you draw in a big... No, I specifically addressed it right after I said it.
Okay, any evidence that you can have gas pressure without the necessary antecedent of a container to press upon?
Gradient.
No.
Well, if you redefine what pressure is, they might get away with it, but that's how they do it.
Yeah, and we can just calculate the pressure and then forget about the fact that it needs to hit the surface. We can just calculate it, and then we've got pressure.
No, but you can't.
So
because you actually require that surface to calculate it, so that's incorrect.
No. What he's saying, hold on.
Yesterday.
What he's saying, Arwin, is if I sort of hold my hands out in the air and go, about this big a volume, just arbitrarily describe a box with my hands, and let's say that arbitrarily defined box that's in midair is a meter cube, then you say that's the volume that we'll calculate it for. And if it's an assertion that is in line with the heliocentric claim, then you're going to be assuming that gas pressure that is all around that arbitrary defined area is going to be at 14.7 at sea level, psi. So therefore you've already got gas pressure in existence when you start defining how much and what it does in a given area that's just a random area you assign. That's the point Anthony's making when he says that. Am I correct? I know I'm correct.
Yeah, we can forget about the actual requirement for it to collide with the surface or the insides of the container. We can ignore that. We can just calculate it as if it was doing that, and then we've got a sum.
No, but that's technically still incorrect because
we weren't saying you were wrong.
Requires a container just because you're taking a snippet out of the container and ignoring the container walls in the calculation doesn't mean that it's still based on the container walls.
Yes, you are correct. I'll try again. Yes, we weren't saying you were wrong. We were just saying you don't understand the Fundy anti-flat Earth rebuttal when they arbitrarily assign containment, technically speaking. No, of course not. It's just an arbitrary amount of area that they'll define and have atmosphere, sphere-shaped air with its pressure and gradient without containment, arbitrarily assigned to this area that's a meter cubed. Now, the meter cube doesn't need anything to press on in that example because they've basically whistled past the graveyard of requiring containment to have the gas pressure in the first place. And we were, but definitely not saying you're wrong in your rebuttal to that, are we? No, far from it. You're absolutely correct.
All right.
Are you saying that they take a dynamic system, cut out a section of it, claim that that is a static system, and then measure it?
That's a very concise
It's
way of
like
putting it.
making
Yes.
an elaborate calculation and then erasing parts of the early calculations just to focus on a very tiny spot.
Well, it's focusing on the delta. So you focus on the effects that are created after you achieve gas pressure. So after you've got gas pressure, we'll describe this particular aspect, and we'll describe it in this particular amount of space.
Yep.
You know, okay. Now, if you don't know what question to ask, if a fundy does that, you'll go down the route of begging the question in deltas of gas pressure. The correct response, the correct question at that stage, is to say, where did you get the gas pressure from in the first place?
That's exactly what Professor Phil Bell was trying to do yesterday. I asked him about 10 times to the point where a Cumo virus was actually saying, stop asking him, he's obviously not going to answer you. It was a question simple that, yeah, you're calculating for it, but how did you get it in the first place? He doesn't want to answer it. He'll do anything. He'll answer Nathan instead, or he'll answer Arwin instead. Completely ignore it, even though I asked him about 10 times. He just won't answer it.
Ask him
There
now.
was a guy.
Rather than, hold on, as that's been verbalised here live, feel free, verbalise that question with a question mark addressed to him personally.
Dear Professor Phil Bell, how do you get the gas pressure in the first place before you start calculating for the Boltzmann equations to give you the probability distribution for the gradient? Before you do that, how did you get the pressure in the first place?
See if we get a response out of him. As it's dragged on for a couple of days, and I know your pain when you're trying to get a fundy to actually concede. We discussed this earlier this morning. When you hear me numbering the repeated cycle of a question that they haven't answered, that's death by 1,000 cuts. So no, they haven't conceded. They'll never concede. But that point will be reiterated again and again, ad nausea. Some people moan about it. It's like, no, we can't move on until this is either conceded or it's death by 1,000 cuts with me numbering how many times this has been put to you. So number 1, let's just do it right now. #2. Is it Phil Bell? Prof. Phil Bell. Where'd you get gas pressure from in the first place to describe gas pressure deltas with extrapolations from Boltzmann formulas? Where'd you get the gas pressure from in the first place? That's 2. DOS. Twice. Should we continue?
Is he in chat? I don't think he's in chat.
Can
I
I
don't
say
know,
something
probably.
here?
Unlike some
Yeah,
very
go on.
slick, efficient channels, without my monitor working properly, I have to click around and go to... I mean, I'm there now, but I have to find the chat. You know, some people can do it on a surfboard with a phone. Me, you know, 2 screens isn't enough.
Okay, yesterday in chat when you were rerunning your show from, I think, the day before, there was a guy saying that pressure is a myth. That seems to be going around.
Pressure is a force.
No, it said
An
it's a
interaction.
myth.
Retro Bill says for $25 US, he says, busy moving into my first home. Great to be back as a regular listener. Big shout out to the entire panel apart from Arwin.
That's not what he said. He said, "Good." He said, "Shout out to the entire panel."
I can read too, you know.
Just stir the shit pot there, lick the spoon as well.
Thank you very much for the super chat, Retro Bill, and unfortunately, your sentiment was slightly hijacked by Anthony. I can only apologise. Smash the super chat to support this channel. Really appreciate it, Retro Bill. Moving on. Any evidence? Did we have distance to the sun already? Any evidence of the distance to the sun?
What is the sun?
See, that topic there, I don't know if you remember, Nathan, but like quite early on in the debates, probably before 200 or so, show 200, we had a massive argument over what is angular size, and the ball earthers were basically gaslighting, saying that angular size is just how big something measures. Get two rulers, create an angle with it, and measure that angle, and that's the angular size. But in the definition, it says it's from a given distance. So you need to know the distance because it requires the distance value. So, for example, an angular size is not simply 25 degrees. It's 25 degrees from a mile. And then you say, well, what is that bigger or smaller than, say, I don't know, 20 degrees from 3/4 of a mile? And then you'd have to compare and contrast them with a graph because you can't do it in your mind. And basically, they gaslight you to death, even though it literally says the angular size from a specific or known distance. They'll still say it's just the angular size. It's just the measurement of the angle, even though it's black and white on the screen. Do you remember when we had that and it went on for ages and it was really, really simple?
Yeah. Now, I'd just say, after that little argument, I'd drop into the conversation. Where's this accounted for when you're looking at a building in the curve maths?
Yeah.
Where do they get an angle from to begin with?
You're always one step ahead of me here at the moment, John. While my cog's turning, going, hold on, that argument's progressed, you say things like, you're going to need an R value for that axial rotation. And it's normally, I'm just, the cog's about to tick over when you say those things. So I'm very appreciative. It makes me smile every time. The rustling from Anthony doesn't, though. Shout out to Godzilla37 while we get loads of rustles. You have a rustly super chat shout out. Godzilla37, thank you for the super chat. Go ahead,
my battery's just died on my mouse, and I'm going to have to pull the battery out because I can't mute myself. So just bear with me a sec while I rag it out. Oh, actually, I got a button here.
Okie dokie. Busy moving into Bill's old home. He charged me too much. This is all I have left. Thank you for giving me your last dime. I really appreciate it, Godzilla. Hope you're not being serious. Bill's house is lovely.
Where do you get a straight line on a globe to get an angle with? Have they answered that yet?
They don't.
Don't they call it either a chord or a tangential line? And then they say you don't even need the horizon. So they say we can use a tangential line. Oh, really? So how do you account for the other bits that are missing then? And then they don't answer it. And then you say, well, if it's a chord line, how did you get the angle like looking through the ground? You'd need to know that where the 90-degree angle is to line up to it. And
no. As soon as they say chord line, they'll need R for that. Can you ask me the question again, John?
If all lines are bent on a globe, they've claimed with terrestrial refraction, how can you get an angle to begin with?
Quote, Bob the science guy, we don't have one. End quote. That is contextually accurate. That question was put to him, and his response, we don't have one.
But you only need an optical straight line and angle, right? When you're doing an optical measuring. It doesn't need to be geometric.
Geometric isn't the other way around. It's the other way around. Geometric isn't optical. You might be looking at something, but if you're measuring it and doing geometry, you're taking straight baselines if you're doing triangulation. That's a geometric consideration. Yeah, you might be looking at something and measuring an angle, but when you're doing the triangulation, you're doing it in pure geometric terms. Not doing it in optical terms.
So you're doing it in geometric terms, but within the medium of optics.
You were here when all of their justifications, and they seem legit when we were less educated in this subject, were given to us on the other side of the coin. So why aren't we taking perspective into consideration in the begging the question, proof of nothing perspective hijacking Earth curve calculator, response from anti-flat earther, because it's geometric. Don't need to concern yourself with optics and perspective when you're dealing in geometry. Alright, seems reasonable? Yeah, it does seem reasonable. Other than when you're actually looking at something disappear from bottom up due to an angular relationship, that would be optics, you can't account for that in the geometry. Now, when you're just taking an angle to triangulate something, the same principle applies. If you're going to start trying to get distances to it, that's Anthony's point. If you're trying to measure angular size and just assert one of the distances or sizes that you don't have, it's very fallacious. Likewise, we don't assert that we get in the star's height or size when we triangulate to get a position on the ground with geometry. We just use pure geometry. That is not optical.
Right, but back in the day, they didn't realize that yet. And that's why once they realized, that's when they started to claim, okay, we never claimed the horizon was geometric. Because that doesn't work. It's only geometric in the diagram, in the side view diagram. Right?
Yeah, it only exists in the maths.
If you're going to use triangulation with the sextant in the real world, you're going to base it on optics. So there, it's getting so convoluted. I'm getting trouble keeping track
no, it's fine.
At this point.
It's fine, Arwen. You were going somewhere with that, but go ahead, John.
I was going to say, if you had a ball big enough, like you got a ball that was a mile in diameter, you stood on it, you could measure a geometric horizon to that ball. You could. That's not what the horizon is that we experience. It's not geometric because we don't live on a ball.
Precisely. So in Neil deGrasse Tyson's example, when he says that stuff is flat and slaps a beach ball that's shaped like a globe, he's describing how an ant that's 3 millimeters off the beach ball won't see the curve of the geometric horizon that is presented to an ant that's a couple of millimeters above something that's spherical. You do have a geometric limitation to your view if you are an ant on a sphere. The geometric limitation is your horizon, because that's the limit of your view at whatever distance is calculable for that size sphere based on its radius value. Well, when he slaps that beach ball and says you can't see the horizon bending from 3 millimeters above this beach ball and slaps it, that stuff is flat, well, what he's actually doing is getting you to reify the edge of the horizon that's the beach ball's horizon into your horizon that you see when you're out at the beach. So the beach ball horizon isn't the same as a beach horizon. A beach horizon is a limitation based on optics. You can calculate with the Rayleigh criterion based on the aperture of your eye where you'll get a limitation to your view, where things disappear. Well, that is optical and purely optical. And the geometric equivalent that claims that there's a physical edge to your view like an ant on a beach ball doesn't account for how your eye will also limit your view. So it's hijacked the effects of optics and called them geometry.
Yeah, he was very slick because he had flat earthers saying, see, even he said it's flat, missing the whole point and the trick that he was doing.
Yeah, see, he says it's flat, and he says you can't see Earth curve from really high. Well, like this guy in the picture on screen now, he's up high, he's at the top of a mountain. Alright, so we can't see it curving. It? What's it? Well, the horizon. So we can't see something that's a not actual location, an apparent position where the sky meets the ground, or in this case, the sky meets the clouds. That's a not actual location. It's not a physical geometric limitation to your view, like it would be if you were an ant on a beach ball. Then you would have a geometric limitation to your view. This is John's point, just to bring you back in, John. Yeah, you're going to need R for that. I agree, John.
Yeah, but so that ant is definitely going to see an obstruction. That's for sure. We did this analogy with monopoly houses, didn't we?
Yeah, you must have a geometric limitation to your view if you're on a sphere. You can't not have one. So therefore, when we point out that the horizon's not geometric, it's not a limitation to your view, it's a not actual position, it's an apparent location, all of these redundant terms that are described by the word itself, horizon, then you've got a problem if you're on a sphere, because you must have a geometric limitation to your view. The edge of the sphere must be there if you're on a sphere. If it's not, and it isn't, we've debunked it, then all you've got is the horizon. And the horizon is an Earth curve.
Brian said, well, yesterday, if the horizon is refracted, then it's not geometric. And if you go and do BLMS V69's 1 foot observation, and it changes from one day to another, then it's not physical either. So it's over right there.
Yeah, it's very, very, I don't understand. It's very easy to understand.
Okay, any evidence of a self-perpetuating molten iron core at the centre of a presupposed spherical Earth?
Retarded.
Nah, just a couple of diagrams, P waves and S waves in it.
I think the previous question answer debunks that.
What was
Correct.
R, asking for R.
Yeah. Yeah. If there's no R, then how can you have that one exist?
Go on.
Is there any evidence of the Rumpus and his Bedford Levels reboot?
Rumpus is a liar. We do not care.
I know, but he was supposed to have done it weeks ago, and I've not heard either way. Does anybody know whether he's done it or not?
Rumpus is supposed to do a lot of things. All right.
Well, as
Still
it's
waiting for
your
that dossier that he created.
is an equivalent, Anthony. Any evidence of the presentation that he said he would do in regards to your north end of the Isle of Man observation taken from St. Bees Beach on your belly?
Lay on my belly. Yeah.
99.9999% done. I'm almost done.
It's like 3 years ago.
Even if he had done it, could you believe him?
Say again, Scrat.
Even if he had done it, could you believe him? What his results are, considering he's a bull-faced liar.
Exactly. Yeah, I've lost
Can't do
interest.
it anyway.
He's a barefaced liar. You know, it was actually on topic, although I didn't interject to say, remember when the Rumpus claimed a physical geometric sphere-edge horizon blocking the Isle of Man? Yeah, well, later on he then claimed, I always claimed it was refracted. Barefaced lie. He did not always claim the horizon was refracted. He claimed the targets were refracted with respect to the horizon. End quote. Liar.
It's correct.
So that's why he's
Should
not.
have a day.
That's why he's not here. You know, once you reach the point where you're just descending into barefaced lies about what you've claimed previously, then you're not welcome anymore. It's like you're not going to help anybody on your own side or ours or the audiences or anybody. You just become a liar. They always were. If they're not lying to us, they're lying to themselves.
Maybe you should have a day when you bring all the liars back in just for an hour.
They're all the door's always open to them. Certain people, I'll just say, get lost. You know, it's not like Rumpus hasn't had a decent amount of airtime here. You can go back and check out any of the Rumpus clips. There's plenty of them, so you can see what it's like to deal with the Rumpus. And you know, there's plenty of old historic debates with him to check out. But in terms of my purpose here as an education channel, I'm trying to educate people. So to have people who are here discussing the matter with us, even if we know they're delusional or lying to themselves or in cognitive dissonance, if you just give them the benefit of the doubt, when you know they're lying, you've got to draw the line. You've got to say no. It was one thing for you to double speak around the problem. Well, the horizon is geometric. Well, we don't see a geometric horizon. Well, we do. You know, that is one thing, because I can justify it just about as cognitive dissonance in the moment. But when you start barefaced lying about what you've claimed, and in that instance, I gave him 3 opportunities after trimming out a clip and publishing it, showing what he'd said. So I was like, I'd already trimmed this out several months ago, but I'm going to republish it here, which I did, after asking him once. Then he came back, and I then asked him 3 further times about his lie, quite directly, and he continued to lie, in the face of the evidence being presented to him, and having been challenged the day before, and me saying, I'm going to double check this strong claim I'm going to make in terms of your lie that's now overt as far as the evidence is concerned. Present it to you, give you 3 opportunities to correct your lie, and he didn't. Just continued the lie.
Yeah, it was a bad idea.
Well, just not welcome here anymore, basically. No credibility at all, even as a nameless, faceless troll. No, 0 credibility. Not that he had very much to begin with.
Owen liked him. I know Anthony likes to have him in.
Yeah, he's my favourite Glober because he's very animated, isn't he? You can hear by his tone when he gets excited. And I like the fact that he just calls everybody like the rudest of names as though it's like a trivial name. It's like the delusion that it's okay is like astonishing.
You got to ask Brian to tell you the story when he rung him up drunk. He said as soon as he answered the phone, he was in debate mode.
Yeah, like I say, there's plenty of clips to go back if you want to get an idea of what we're talking about. But ultimately, I just don't see that there's any benefit moving forward with anyone like that. I'd rather us have these sorts of conversations, because if I didn't, all we'd end up with is discourse and lies reaching the audience, and that just doesn't serve anybody any good at all.
So if he's a liar,
Correct.
then that means he's not 6'3" like he told me. He could kick my ass because he's over 6'3". He's probably 5'3". I could kick his ass.
Well, to be honest with you, most of these people that are faceless tend to be societal rejects. They're like raggy dolls. Like Gem Panda, he's like 5'2" or whatever he is.
The
He's a raggy
Hunchback of
doll.
Notre Dame.
Yeah, he's a raggy doll. So it wouldn't surprise me if the Rumpus was some kind of small weasel, exactly the way he sounds.
Who cares?
The reason for the lie, or why he has to continue lying, is because of what he was previously asserting. His horizon, in every aspect, was that geometric edge of his ball. And post Black Swan, that's why he has to lie, because he'd have to come out and admit what he was reifying, all those episodes, all the Isle of Mans, and many more. Do you know what I mean? But that's the reality and why he has to skate around it now, because now he can't reify it as the leading edge. He's got to do something else. But that's what he was doing in the past, and that's why he struggles to go back and be honest about what he claimed.
Exactly. So in the Isle of Man, the debate hinged on them claiming that there's a physical obstruction called a bulge, that's Earth curve edge horizon, blocking the Isle of Man. That's the argument. How much of the Isle of Man is blocked by Earth curve? That would be blocked physically by Earth curve. And then when it doesn't quite match up with the maths, well, the light that's coming from the target is bending around Earth's surface at this rate. And you know it's refracted because of its position with respect to the horizon. End quote, the rumpus. So you're arguing about how physically blocked something is, and if it isn't quite matching your maths, you'll bend it into a position where it's blocked the right amount. Yeah, by Earth curve, physical, and its geometry in Muppet Vision. And the justification for no perspective, it's geometric. Right, so you've got a geometric obstruction called Earth curve getting in the way of the Isle of Man, then, according to you and your claim. Yeah, until we debunk it with the Black Swan, then you need to lie through your back teeth about having ever claimed that we've got a geometric obstruction blocking the Isle of Man. That's what you've got, ballers. At the end of this, you've got nothing but lies and deceit. That's what's at the end of your little rabbit hole, fighting for the globe or scrambling to get back up to the delusion that every other fundy in the Western world used to share with you. You don't have that delusion anymore. It's gone. So what have you got instead? Deceit, lies. That's all you can do. Further you keep digging.
They have to, because if they don't, they would have to relinquish their belief in the globe. You know that. And he just can't.
That's why these people need time off from us. And by us, I mean the debate. Because it's too much. It's too stressful. If you're a glober, while you might be presenting a calm demeanour and laughing off every time you're shown to be wrong, that giggle that we hear, oh, yeah, okay, so I need half of that, isn't what they say. They just laugh and don't concede. Hence you end up with me numbering off the number of times that they haven't addressed the fact that they'll need an R value for that in most instances. Well, that pain that they're experiencing piles up to the point where a lot of these people are disappearing away from us, not because they just, well, I've got back into normie life now. No, I'm on the globe and so does everyone around me. No, they can't cope with the debate.
Yeah, Righteous, you got to check on Zinder. See if he's okay.
Zinder?
Yeah.
Chat, mate.
Shout out to no one who's joined as a lion.
I think he left on his own accord.
I think he had a Lexus rather than an Accord.
What you find is those who used to join here will now go and reside in Jose's. And in there, they're very comfortable. They don't raise their voice. They don't get anxious or sweaty or stuttering or stammering or all of the awkward behavioural traits that they do when they come in here. But they all go in there so that they can hold each other's hands, sing Kumbaya and dance around the fireplace as they do their Gregorian chants, their culty-like behaviour. That's where they go.
And with no evidence of anything and no validation, it could all stand there and say, you're going to need a globe for that.
Yeah, I said this on the other show. There's a massive difference between us pointing out how they used to claim there was a physical horizon, then they've got to lie about having a physical horizon ever been claimed because of the black swan. And because of the black swan, they haven't got an R value. So when they can't get an angle because they've got a curved surface between them and the horizon, and everything's refracted, there is absolutely no way out of the fact that they can't get a straight line for a sextant on a globe. That's the entirety in the most concise way I can give it. Yeah, Mitchell, I'm sure you can summarise it in 4 words. Yeah. But anyway, when you get to that point, you've got a concise summary of a series of argument with a progression that's taken place that you can see. For us to say, you're going to need R for that claim. Why? Because you haven't got it. Just in reverse order, because you can't get R if you can't measure a geometric horizon, and you can't get a geometric horizon if it's refracted, and the black swan shows that it's refracted, whereas it was formerly claimed to be blocking the Isle of Man. See, I can even do it in reverse order, because we've been doing it for so long. That's the argument that is attached to, you're going to need R for that. And we all agree, that's why we all say it so often. So when we're all saying it often, you can trim out us all saying it, because it's the argument as it stands. They see that, ignore all previous arguments that are attached to that statement, and say, you know what we're going to do? We're just going to arbitrarily say, you're going to need a globe to get a straight line for a sextant so it can measure an angle. No, you will actually need a flat plane for that. You need 2 straight lines, not acquirable from a globe. So there isn't even a logical consistency behind the statement, let alone a series of years' worth of arguments that make it make sense. It's just a baseless assertion that you're going to need a globe to acquire an angle. Oh, really? How is it that we're going to need a globe to get an angle when you literally cannot get an angle off a spherical surface? It's curved. You need 2 straight lines. So it doesn't even make logical sense. So what does it become when they start saying in unison, well, you're going to need a globe for that? Well, it becomes chanting. They're just chanting that they'll need a globe because that's what they're doing mentally, telling themselves, well, this must require a globe, because in their mind, the cognition's so deeply ingrained that they're on a sphere that when all else fails, they'll just say, we'll need a sphere for that. We must, because we believe we're on one. When the argument is actually that you can't get a straight line from a sphere. So, rebuttal, you're going to need a sphere for that. Yeah, that's shite. That's just chanting, lads. It's pathetic.
Very good, Nathan. Well said. Just like when they put their housekeeping questions together. They're just copycats.
Highest form of flattery.
Neil, are you there? Neil.
He was just talking 3 seconds ago, Anthony.
Yeah, I just wanted to get his attention. Have you listened to any of the shows that are like before the show 100?
The only thing I've listened to before the 600s was QE's debate with the Rumpus.
So before 100 is basically where it was very baller heavy. There were like 5, 6, 7 ballers on the panel. And if you joined as a measly flat earther, you were obviously, it was like they were all looking at you and it was a case of, right, what we're going to batter this flat earther with now? And it was, I mean, it depends on how you want to interpret it, but it was very daunting and flat earthers couldn't join really because all you were going to get was 10 of them against you. And it was very one-sided. However, now they can't join and it's brill. So my point is go back and listen to any of the shows that are before show 100 and you'll see what it was like. It was a shit show. But it was totally the opposite of the way it is now.
Yeah, when I joined, it was like, without the Black Swan, I still think these were hammering ballers.
Well, you joined when we were discussing science. That's why I was quite, rude to you earlier when we're like, is this really going to boil down to, is Becky still typing emails and claiming it's science? Because we spent a solid year wrapping our own heads around how science had been hijacked, how everything that's claimed to be science, I still hear it. Just yesterday, Neil was talking about getting irritated when he hears people talking about atmosphere and stuff. Well, as an example, how I don't get irritated by it, I hear the acousticians talking about it being science all the time. We've taken measurements of our diaphragmatic carbon-based absorber, and it's science. This is science that we're applying when we apply acoustics. No, it isn't. It's not science at all. It's measuring. It's maths. They'll tell you how they've measured stuff and then tell you it's science in the next breath. So you're like, okay, that's just how the world is. They're under the misapprehension they've got science when they measure stuff. Okay, it isn't. Yeah, we spent a year on it. Now it's like, is Becky still claiming she's got a science when she types emails out? Dr. Becky, that is.
They're just trying to fill dead air.
I wasn't moaning.
But the world thinks they're doing science. I don't think they're aware of the scientific method. It's really pseudoscience.
But they must be. For them to want to say this is science, the reason they're employing that magic trick is because at some level they know that science means proof. So when they measure something really, really well, to the point where they've got really accurate data, they're so confident in what they're asserting that they can say, this is a science. Knowing how well my diaphragmatic absorber takes away a 40 hertz frequency is science. I've really measured it well. Excuse me. No, it is not. Science deals with the physical and natural world. Physics. Physical. Yes, so you're going to be observing things in the physical and natural world and wanting to know why they happen. You building a diaphragmatic absorber, that's you building something. That's a man making something. So the phenomena that would be researched, if you want to call it science, would be explained by a man making something. Oh, what's that? You say you've got really good measurements? That's fascinating. Measurements, yeah, measure. That sounds like maths to me. Why did you call it science? Oh, because at some level you understand that when you say that word, people think you've proven something. Yes, that's why you're using the word, isn't it? So that people think you've proven something when you measured it. You didn't prove anything, though. You just measured it. You didn't validate something with an experiment. You didn't have a cause and effect relationship laid out with a hypothesis and a null. No, you didn't have any of those things. It wasn't science, but you thought it would make people believe that what you said was true. Because at some level, you know that science proves things. Yeah, it does. It's empirical. You just don't have it when you've got a measurement for something, unfortunately.
And let's not forget that's exactly the problem with Blue Marble Science's Cavendish reboot. He measured something. He hasn't got a clue what it was. He believes it's something. He reifies it into existence as something. He calculates for something, but he doesn't know what it was because he didn't measure it. And if, in his case, for me personally, he deliberately caused it himself to deceive people into thinking it was something it wasn't. So Blue Marble Science didn't do science. Blue Marble does pseudoscience because he measures stuff and thinks that that's science. It's not. You've got to do a little bit of manipulation, haven't you?
Got to wiggle it.
Yep. I was going to say that.
Wiggle it's a reference to varying and manipulating the presumed cause of the effect you are studying. That is to say, you watch something occur in nature and go, I wonder why that happened. I think this caused it. So, an experiment would be you vary this, the thing you assume caused it. That would be wiggling it to see if it causes it. You wiggle it, it causes it, you've got the cause of the effect. You wiggle it, it doesn't cause it, you validate your null. You prove your null. So regardless of how the experiment results, regardless of the results of the experiment, there you go, you're going to prove something. You're either going to prove that your wiggling it did prove it, or you're going to prove that your wiggling it didn't prove it. Proving null or alternative. That's why the method's empirical. Now, we're taught this at a very, very young age. So from then on in, we know at some level that science proves things because we were taught it. So when we measure something, and the pseudoscience practitioners thereafter have told you about how that's proving something also. This is science too. Yeah, children. No, it isn't. There's no empirical method when you measure something. Go ahead, whoever that was.
Got to wiggle it just a little bit.
I was just going to say it's also a reference to the song Wiggle It, because like if you remember that song Wiggle It, like Neil was just fantastically renditioning for us. then that's the key to it. If you can wiggle it and cause it, then great, you've done science. If you can wiggle it but fail to cause it, then great, you've done science. You've proved the negative, essentially. That's what I did with Bob Nodell's claim. I proved the negative by wiggling it.
Go easy. Hold on. If you want to go there, I'll rip apart the non-hypothesis that you inserted into an existing one. So don't be too lofty with your claims about what you've disproven in that. You haven't. Anyway, without me having a go at Anthony alive on this stream, I'm going to say, if you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan... Oh, somebody smashed the super chat. Let's just shout out to Sebastian Telio, who says, right as I was going into my intro, but if you're giving me money, I'll I'll go back to you and say thank you very much. Oh, he's thanking me. I'm thanking you. You're thanking me. Everybody's getting thanked. But with that, I'm going to say another huge, massive, enormous thank you to both Discord and G+ panels for making today's live show possible. If you are watching this on either Nathan Oakley 1980 or Nathan Oakley premiering streams, then stay tuned as there will be an after show to follow. I've been Nathan Oakley, and I will see you all in the next video.
What a lovely day!